grid then is lined up. Jose Serrano starts this one on pole position. Paul Ura, his compatriot, alongside on the front row of the grid. Adriano Carrazza from Brazil heads row 2, and he has got Kylian Drumont, the Frenchman, on home soil at the Circuit de la Sarthe for company. Thomas Laboutelet heads row 3 in the Aston Martin, of course, and then it is Angel Inestrosa, 6th position on the grid. Takuma Miyazono, P7, he's the reigning world champion with Valerio Gallo for company. Completing the top 10 is Guy Barbara, the Australian, and just on the fringes of it is Takuma Sasaki, who will be hoping for better fortunes in the race. Kai de Bruin lines up P11, the Dutchman, and then 12th position is the newcomer, Samuel Cardinal, the Canadian, is at the back of the field. So, soft tyres for the drivers, 5 laps and a rolling start here, Jimmy.
Yes, not really much you can do in terms of strategy. It is just, as suggested, an all-out sprint race, all about pace here. So, will we see the two Spanish drivers work together as we have in the past? Will we see Carrazza get into the mix, and will we see Miyazono move up? All remains to be seen, but 5 laps time and we're going to have our grid for the grand final.
Absolutely. How important is this for the grand final, Jimmy? Because the circuit we're going to be racing on, completely different in terms of characteristics.
Yeah, I mean, here overtaking is fairly easy for slipstream, but the Grand Valley circuit a bit later on, much tighter, much twistier, and getting by someone there is completely different. So getting that qualifying position here is going to be super, super important.
Absolutely. Well, there is Guy Barbara. He's starting a bit further down the order than he would like. Let's see what forward progress he can make over the course of this one, as Jose Serrano leads the field to the timing line. Paul Ura follows him, and Adriano Carrazza, as we get the sprint race underway here. The Nations Cup Gran Turismo World Series in London is go, as Serrano leads them up towards the Dunlop curve, and as they head into the chicane, is anybody going to think about a move on the brakes? Well, the rolling start spreads the field out a little bit there, so there's no dive bomb moves, but Carrazza gets tagged there by Drumont into the first corner, just sends the Brazilian a little bit wide and might leave him under a bit of pressure in turn. What that has done is allowed Serrano and Ura a bit more of a gap at the sharp end, as it's all bottlenecked up behind.
Yeah, this is exactly what the Spanish drivers wanted at this point. They wanted to have that gap straight away, and Carrazza's given it to him. Laboutelet there in 4th place. Now we get into the first big slipstream part of the circuit. These guys also have a battery to use too, so they're all into the battery right now, up to speed, 360 kph, 370, 380, like it's nothing. Over 400 kilometers an hour now as we go side by side down to the first Mulsanne chicane here, 3 wide. Someone's got to break first, and Drumont goes at the inside of everyone up into 3rd place, but now there's carnage in the back.
Carrazza's off
everywhere.
Carrazza's off, and he's off in a big way as well, right down to the back of the field. Inestrosa also caught up in some strife there, as well as he drops right down the order.
So yeah, still going now as Drumont and Laboutelet have found themselves already with a 2.5-second gap to the Spanish cars ahead. So really, this is a great start for Serrano and Ura, but a nightmare for the rest. They're already out of 16 range, and if they keep fighting like this, all they're going to do is let them go further and further away. But we're only on that one halfway down the straight, coming now down to the slowest part of the corner, the Mulsanne corner, down the bottom here. Heavy braking zone, great place to overtake, but right now everyone seems to have, I think, got through okay. We've lost Carrazza, 18 seconds down. Nightmare start for him, Tom. Yeah, not ideal at all for the Brazilian driver. He always seems to be a bother, and I don't think that was particularly of his own making there, unfortunately. Meanwhile, further back you can see driver getting pretty close for company. Let's have a look and see what happens. So Drumont's going to send it through on the inside into this corner. He goes up ahead of Laboutelet. Keep an eye out for Carrazza, 3rd in your picture. He biffs it into the back then of Laboutelet, and then gets tagged by Inestrosa behind, who in turn gets hit by another driver there as well. I think Miyazono might have been the one that started that off. I mean, it's quite difficult, but the upshot of that is Kai de Bruin in 5th place has come up from 2nd to last. So Kai de Bruin, the Dutch driver, with a fantastic start there. You can see the battery being used, and you can see exactly what I thought. Both Spanish drivers are just trying to get away. They've drained that battery, and it's worked. The gap now up to 3.6 seconds from Paul Ura to Thomas Laboutelet behind. But now, of course, they're going to be lacking that power for the next lap. So it might come back to bite them, but this is exactly what these guys want.
Absolutely, the two Spaniards clearly working together at this point in the race. The problem is that they're involved in a bit of a stalemate, really. They're sort of driving this race with their shoelaces tied together, and eventually a civil war is going to unravel between the two, if it carries on as it is as we head in towards the latter stages, because of course they'll want to finish ahead of one another to get pole position ahead of the grand final.
I mean, ultimately, it is Nations Cup, it's every man for themselves, but you know, their compatriots, they've spoken about this before the race, probably devised some kind of plan. But meanwhile, Laboutelet leading Kylian Drumont 3rd and 4th. Behind them, Kai de Bruin, great start from him. Sasaki as well, also up 4 places from his starting position. The big losers on that one, Miyazono, Inestrosa and Karatsa. Disaster again for Miyazono, our reigning champion, down in 9th position currently.
Yeah, Karatsa down in 12th position there as well. So it's on the top of the box charts. We're going through them so quickly. Some drivers have made some big gains. Some have lost out quite significantly. We ride on board though with Paul Ura, who we tried to deploy what he's got left of that battery. We saw the two Spaniards using that and leaning on it quite heavily over the course of that last lap to try and build out that buffer whilst they all squabbled behind. So it's the two Spaniards, Serrano and Ura, that lead Laboutelet and Drummond, and then they're all going to be lining a cert and closing up against one another as they head down the Mulsanne straight. Indeed, third place has just changed hands there. Drummond now in front of Laboutelet.
So these guys now in third and fourth need to really work together. They're going to catch this little pair in front. A reminder, the finishing positions of this race sets a grid for the Grand Final. The Grand Final is being set on a circuit which is much twisted. There's interestingly, Laboutelet there, given a 1 second penalty. Maybe for his part in what happened at the start there.
Must be.
I admit, I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but that does mean, though, when we get to the penalty line, oh, Serrano's gone deep there, and the second Mulsanne chicane, that's allowed Paul Ura right back onto the rear diffuser of Serrano's car, and just like that, the lead ties back up again.
Yeah, so close quarters here between these two at the moment. So let's see whether Ura is going to think about finding his way through. If I were him, I'd just be sitting in his wheel tracks, waiting for those mistakes to creep in and just trying to use the advantage of that slipstream. You know, he's be saving his tyres. You can see Serrano again a bit wide through the right-hander there, and that's just going to be costing him a bit of time. But look at the penalties that are being picked up here. Yeah, De Bruyne's got one. Laboutelet has got a 1 second penalty there as well. So Laboutelet, we know that's for the contact. De Bruyne, presumably, that must be for track limits.
Man, these guys are all just costing each other a chance at the win here, picking up these penalties, because they're going to have no one to work with going on the straight here. Here is Kai De Bruyne on the left-hand side of your screen, alongside Thomas Laboutelet. Now, they'll come out of Arnage, which is the slowest corner on the circuit, it's right-hander here, and then immediately be hit with a 1 second slowdown, where the brakes are applied automatically for 1 second. The car goes, lowest round you can go through. Here it is, here's the line. That's where sadness starts. It's not just a second of slowing down, you have to then try and get back up to speed again. So just like that, Laboutelet and De Bruyne go back down to 7th and 8th position. Yeah,
Laboutelet means dropping down those positions means that Drummond loses his ally, essentially, doesn't he, there really as well. So those two cannot work together. Meanwhile, we see Serrano still under pressure here from Ura. The compatriot has not found his way past as it stands. These two, of course, they know how to work together as a team. They were part of the Spanish lineup that won the Nations Cup back in 2023. And let's see how they unravel here in this race. Through the forward chicane we go, across the timing line, all ready to begin lap number 3. They get on the loud pedal and on the battery. You can see the crowd here watching on in London. They're absolutely loving this one. Miyazono's picking up a penalty, and also Barbara there as well. So these must be track limits penalties, because we're not seeing anything coming up on our screen saying that there is an investigation underway for any kind of contact or incident or something along the lines of that. So we were talking about it prior to the start of this race, Jimmy, and indeed it's coming true here now as well.
It's so easy to pick them up. Carden's got one as well now. So 3 drivers currently out there now with cut track penalties. And this is the thing, you're really trying to maximise everything around here. The level of this competition is just so high. So if you can just find that extra half attempt somewhere on a curb, you're gonna take it. Yeah, all track limit penalties are being told there. So a real shame for those guys.
So look at Takuma Sasaki, one about Valerio Gallo. Is he going to find his way through? Oh, hang on a minute, here comes Ura as well, right on the back of Jose Serrano. Does he go for it? No, he doesn't. He backs right off going into the braking zone there.
Doesn't need to go for it, does he? I mean, like, if you're Paul Ura right now and you want to win this race, what you have to do is to stay behind Serrano, save your battery, and then just ambush him on the last lap, and there'll be nothing that Serrano can do about it, although who's to say Serrano isn't safe battery too. But these guys, they don't want to... Oh, there you go. We're seeing a change in position there. So Paul Ura now going up into the lead. That seems orchestrated to me. These guys definitely have a plan, don't they, Tom?
They've got to. No doubt about it. De Bruyne, meanwhile, dropped down to 11th place. You were waxing lyrical about him on the opening lap there, Jimmy, and unfortunately he's now down in second but last. I think he was involved in some contact with Guy Barbara, potentially, who sent it to the inside. Yeah, the door was always going to close there, unfortunately, and it sent De Bruyne round like a tabletop, unfortunately. Oh, sent Barbara into the wall there on the second phase of that Porsche curve.
No, that's a big repair bill, the Valkyrie, I'll tell you that.
Gallo still sits on the back here of Takuma Sasaki down into the Mulsanne corner. Brake disc glowing red there. Sasaki a little bit wide onto the curve on the exit. That might compromise his run as we head up towards Indianapolis then. So Gallo in the wheel tracks, in the slipstream. He'll want to try and find his way through on Sasaki before too long. And indeed, he pulls alongside him now, looks for the inside line into the right-hander. And before we've even made it there, he's got through. Such is the straight line speed advantage with that slipstream. His next target will be Kylian Drumont, who's about a second or so up the road. So Gallo, what he needs... Oh, he picks up a half-second penalty for track limits, though.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's a shame for Gallo to get a penalty like that, but yeah, you've got to watch out. They all know the limits are, and that's it. But that means Sasaki will be released. Sasaki up 5 places from his grid position. So a great start from the Japanese driver, but at the moment, it just seems that Serrano and Ura have this one already sewn up.
Yeah, plethora of penalties coming in. The timing screens lighting up like a rental car dashboard here at the moment. Such are the drivers that are just really exceeding the track limits, unfortunately. Yeah, definitely is. That's why I can't get higher cars anymore. Miyazono, meanwhile, he's not made much of an impact on this race, has he? Barbara picks up a 3-second penalty for his part in that collision with Kai de Bruyne that we saw last lap. So he'll be very disappointed with that. Not only has he lost time on track, he's now going to lose positions here to Inestrose. Don't think he'll lose out to De Bruyne, but yeah, not ideal at all there for the Aussie.
Messy so far, really messy so far. I think that everyone just knew straight away it was going to be just a job to try and stop these Spanish drivers. All went in for that same bit of tarmac, and it's just been chaos from there. I mean, Kylian Drumont, his gap to the guys in front of him, he was very, very slightly quicker than first and second last lap, but not enough really to do much about their lead as is. So for everyone else now, it's just about trying to get another position, because as a reminder, these finishing the positions here for this race sets the grid for the grand final where points can be won. So obviously it doesn't really matter so much if you can get up to the lead from starting P7 in the grand final, but it's going to make your job a lot harder starting further down the grid.
Ura and Serrano still exchanging places at the sharp end of this one. We're already on the penultimate lap here of this. It's pretty sensible up at the sharp end of this. Do you think it's just by its very nature, because it's been a sprint race, as to why this race has been, let's say, scrappier than we would normally see?
I don't really know, honestly. I'd love to give you an answer. I think it's just Le Mans, isn't it? People think, well, okay, I can launch over this car. We've got a very high-powered downforce car here, so I'm going to take more risks, and these risks can unfortunately go away. Gallo, that penalty to serve, of course, as well, as does Barbara and Cardinal. Serrano taking the lead once again back away from Paul Ura. I wonder if they are going to have a fight in the end, because ultimately they are against each other. You don't get a joint first place. There is one winner, one loser. Second place, just say really. But I say if you're in first, you're last.
Yeah, no points on offer in this race, just to remind you, as Jimmy said earlier on, it is all about the grid positions, and I wonder if there's going to be some dress rehearsals coming through in this penultimate lap, just to prepare us for what is to come at the sharp end of this one between Serrano and Ura. They've got to be careful and play it pretty safe, but you can see the advantage that Ura's got with that slipstream, drags alongside Serrano as they go side by side into Indianapolis, and that was decisive and clinical there from Ura. I guess they're just trying to work out where their strengths and weaknesses are at these various points on the circuit, so as to be in the right position to attack on this final lap.
These cars are so fast around here. 3-minute, 4-second lap time from our leader last time around. Kylian Drumont there giving chase. And to be fair, he is making inroads. The gap now down to 3.3 seconds. It was nearly 4 seconds at the start of this lap, so he is starting to catch him. And as you can see, no battery left for Serrano or Ura, a little bit left there for Drumont, but Sasaki with half a battery, so he might be able to actually bridge that gap there to Drumont.
Yeah, he might be able to close it up, but I don't know if he'll be able to challenge for that podium position. But interestingly, out of the two at the front, Serrano has got 9% less than Ura at this point. So I wonder if that will pay dividends to Ura on this final lap. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it could make all the difference between passing and not passing for that race lead.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the specific amount of power the battery adds, but it's a significant push to pass. So if you have that in your arsenal, you are definitely going to do a little bit better than the guy who doesn't have it. So anyway, coming on to your last lap here in the sprint race, the Nations Cup. Serrano currently leading from Paul Ura, Spanish 1-2. Drumont in third place and Sasaki in fourth. And again, this is all to decide the group positions in the race coming up next, the Grand Final.
Yeah, so down in towards this first sector we go. Coming on towards the Mulsanne Straight. Now, this is where it has been pretty hectic at the sharp end of this one, and I would imagine that is set to continue. So Serrano it is that leads, but I guarantee Paul Ura is going to be all over his rear wing and his gearbox as we come onto this back straight, and indeed will probably try and find his way through as well. So onto the back straight we go, and let's see how Ura is going to play this one, and whether Serrano has got anything left to just halt the challenge of his fellow Spaniard as we come down here. At the moment, Serrano looks okay, but it's a fairly long run into that chicane. Don't think he'll do anything into the first one, but maybe Ura can line something up into the second one. And again, Serrano just seems to struggle on that mid-phase of the corner. It allows Ura to close up, but on the exit, Serrano gets a better run out of it, and Ura is left there with a bit more work to do.
There we go then, so Paul Ura will get an easy overtake here on the way down to Mulsanne 2, up into the lead for now. Half a lap left. Is that the move? Or has Serrano got something waiting as a reply? We'll see. Through the second Mulsanne chicane, now a run down to the Mulsanne corner, one of the tightest corners on the circuit. You break from 400 kph down to a standstill. Meanwhile, Leboutelet and Miyazono is going back through the field after a poor start, looking to try and get a place.
Yeah, Leboutelet's just mugged Miyazono actually a couple of corners ago. Meanwhile, at the sharp end of this one, down into the Mulsanne corner, Serrano still holds on to the race lead, but the exit out of this one, the run in towards Indianapolis, is where we've seen moves being made. Is this going to be a pass from Ura on Serrano? So the slipstream for Ura, no slipstream for Jose Serrano. How much battery do they have left between the two of them as we come in towards this corner? And has Ura got anything left to try and find his way through?
They've got to be careful here because they could quite easily take each other out of contention here when they are in a comfy 1-2. So it's basically who wants first the most, I guess, and who's willing to give it up, because if they really are scrapping, there's a chance they can have each other off. We've seen it already up and down the field, but this really right here is going to be the last chance to overtake. Serrano had a great exit there. Paul Ura really struggling for traction, but Ura is now on the battery and has the toe. The gap is coming down, but I don't think he's going to get there in time, Tom.
Yeah, so coming down into this final sector then, Serrano versus Ura. This is for pole position, the grand final! A late lunge to the inside there for Ura against Serrano, but the door very firmly shut by the race leader. They skim the wall on the outside, and now just 2 sets of chicanes remaining, and Serrano with enough of an advantage, unless he runs it wide or Ura goes for a dive bomb to the inside, but I don't think Ura's going to be close enough. Serrano has got track position. He's got enough in his back pocket to just cruise his way through these final chicanes, and unless he fluffs his lines, which he doesn't do so, it's Serrano running onto the gravel on the exit of the final corner, but he does win the sprint race here in London. It's Serrano in front of Paul Ura and Kylian Drumont in 3rd place there on his home circuit at Le Mans as well. What a great end to that one.
Paul Ura, I didn't mean to do that, mate. Sorry about that. I just sort of sent it in a bit. But there you go, the 2 Spaniards absolutely dominating the sprint race there. That's something we've said before in the past, seen it in the past. These guys were all part of the 2023 Nations Cup Spanish team who won the Nations Cup that year in the free driver format. So very, very quick drivers in their own right, and of course they're just showing off, basically.
Yeah, that was spectacular stuff from those 2 drivers. The upshot is it is Jose Serrano who will